Hello there everyone, Matt here with virtualinstructor.com, and in this video I'd like to share with you a time-lapse video that's taken from a lesson series which is part of a course. The course is called 3 Little Birds with Colored Pencils. That is for members at virtualinstructor.com. Now in this time-lapse video we create a drawing of a hummingbird on black Canson Mi-Teintes pastel paper using Caran d'Ache's Luminance colored pencils. Now if you want to get access to this complete course, which includes drawings of 3 different birds with 3 different brands of colored pencils on 3 different surfaces, I'll leave a link in the description below, and I'll also leave links in the description below to these colored pencils and this surface if you want to try this out on your own as well. Now if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, I suggest you do so, but do that after you watch the video. With that being said, I hope you enjoy the following time lapse. The wax-based Luminance pencils by Caran d'Ache are perhaps the brightest colored pencils on the market. So if you're looking for that intense color, that bright color, that strong contrast, then these colored pencils might be the best decision for you. Now that doesn't necessarily mean they're the best, just the brightest. So we can look at how bright they are compared to other brands. On the far left we can see the Prismacolor Premier pencils on black paper, and in the middle we can see the Faber-Castell Polychromos pencils, which are oil-based. And then on the far right we can compare that with the Luminance pencils by Caran d'Ache, and you can see how much brighter this particular brand of pencils is. Now even though we're working on dark paper, we still need to keep in mind that the intensity of the color and the value of the color is going to be affected by the color of the paper, of course. On the far left we can see Bristol paper, white Bristol paper, and then on the far right the same color applied to black paper. And of course, since we're drawing on black paper, we're going to start here with a lighter colored pencil, and this is actually a lighter warm gray, and we're using this pencil basically to lightly sketch out the contour lines. We're not going to do any shading here initially. All of that shading and all that value is going to be developed, of course, by layering colored pencil applications over the top of our contour line drawing. You can see here the lines themselves are rather loose and sketchy, and that's just actually to ensure accuracy. Now, once we have the drawing in place on the drawing surface, it's now time to start applying colored pencil applications, and we'll start here with the eye and work our way outward. An eye is always going to naturally become a focal point, especially when you have one subject here like we do with the hummingbird, so it makes sense to start here. So we'll start here with layered applications of blue and black and white, and then just work our way outward. Some of these whites are actually not pure white, they're actually an off-white, more of a creamier color, which gives a more natural appearance. Of course, the dominant colors in this image are mainly greens, and also there's a little bit of a red tint associated with the wings. So as I'm creating this drawing, I'm trying to pull out more of those reds and some of those red oranges to help to accentuate that color combination of red and green, which of course are complementary colors. Now, while we can rely on the black of the paper to create some of those darker values, you'll notice that I am going in with a black pencil and occasionally a very dark blue and a very dark brown to develop some of those darker tones. I feel like even when working on black paper, you have better control over your values, especially the darker values, when you mix those colors by applying darker values over the top of the base color that you have in place. Now, this is also true if we're working on white paper. If we're working on white paper, for example, I wouldn't rely on the white of the paper to create all of the lighter tints, the lighter values in the drawing. Instead, I would use a white pencil or a cream to create those lighter tones and values. Now you can notice there's a lot of greens here, especially on the back side of the bird. And green is one of those colors that can look unnatural if you're not careful. So we're using quite a variety of different greens. There's some blue greens in there, but mostly we're dealing with the warmer yellow greens. And of course, when we mix some of that dark brown over the top and some of those creamy whites over the top, that makes the color a little bit more natural as well and allows us to create a broad range of value in that section. Now as we move on to the wings, you can see I'm really making an attempt to pull out some of those reds, and in this case the reds are almost a red purple, and I'm accentuating a little bit more than what I observed in the reference that I was working from. So I was pulling out a little bit more red and of course pulling out a little bit more green in the body of the bird, again to create that strong contrast between the colors. Now, of course, we still need to develop the range of value here that's important in creating the illusion of the individual feathers and also the texture. So we used a lighter, peachier color for the highlights and a darker brown for the shadowed areas to make those feathers look like they were individual feathers stacked on top of each other. Now this large light gray tool that I'm using here is actually a colorless blender, which was included with the luminance pencil set that I was working from. So as we continue to work here, you can see in this particular case, I added a darker value first and then applied the lighter values over the top. This is somewhat backwards than how we normally work with colored pencils. Typically when we work with colored pencils on a white surface or even a black surface, and throughout this process, we typically start with addressing some of the lighter tones and values and then work a little bit darker. You can also start with a middle tone value and add those lighter values and then the darker values if you wish. But for that particular section, we actually started with a darker value. Here underneath the wing, you can see that we started with a lighter value, those lighter tones that exist on the left side of the body, and then went in with the darker values to create those shadowed areas. So you really have to think about each section of the drawing that you're working on. Whether you're working on black paper or white paper, you need to think about those values, because with colored pencils, it's much easier to make values darker than it is to make values lighter if you accidentally make them too dark. So just think about your value range when you're working with colored pencils and make sure that you're going to be able to develop those lighter values and tones, which are exceptionally important in creating a drawing that's convincing. Now here in the later stages, I'm using the colorless blender to just mix and blend some of the applications and then go back and of course make some of the colors a little bit stronger, especially those red, oranges, and greens. And then our colored pencil drawing using the luminance pencils of a hummingbird on black paper was complete.
Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed the time lapse. Now remember, this time lapse is taken from a lesson series that is taught in real time with commentary, and it also includes illustrated ebooks, which is all part of the course 3 Little Birds with Colored Pencils, where we take a look at drawing 3 different birds with 3 different brands of colored pencils on 3 different surfaces. Now of course, this course is just one small part of our membership program, which includes video courses on drawing and painting on a variety of media and subject matter, as well as weekly live lessons, weekly critiques as part of the members' minutes, lesson plans for teachers, and much, much more. If you haven't checked out our membership program yet, I would suggest you do so. Everyone starts with a trial. There's a link in the description below and probably a link popping up on the screen here somewhere. If you want to check out 3 of our course modules, which includes videos and ebooks for free, you can do so as well. Again, a link in the description below. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. It's completely free to do so, and we cover a broad variety of drawing and painting media and subject matter here on the channel. As always, I wish you all the very best in your artistic success.